Hello and welcome back to another live stream. Yesterday, we did a live stream about reacting to Jehovah's Witnesses Faith in Action Part 1 mockumentary, sort of the half of their Jehovah's Witness religion told by the Jehovah's Witnesses in 2010. And I was thinking of reacting to this next week because I don't know. Usually, my friend Jake streams on Sundays, and I'm like, it's fine. I probably have a lot of things to do today. And today I did have a lot of things to do. But since Jake wasn't live streaming today, I'm like, you know what? It's better than doing all the things that I need to do. Procrastinating. That's right. So here we're gonna procrastinate doing all of the things that I need to do because I rather just I don't know. I've been dealing with a lot of personal stuff, and I'd rather just react to some cult propaganda with you guys while obviously consuming drugs and alcohol, which is I feel the best way to react to some cult propaganda. Now, let me. We're gonna stream it directly from jw.org as we did yesterday. You can find it is right in jw.org. Jehovah's Witnesses Faith in Action Part 2, Let the Light Shine. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining. Hi, Elizabeth Sarim. Hello, there we go. And good morning from Canada. Oh, that's awesome. You also have really good week. Probably better than us, actually. Now, let's get started with this one. Let's just read this. A huge work lay ahead from the Bible students as they endeavor to carry out Jesus' command to make disciples of people of all the nations. There would be many opposers. Their understanding of the scriptures would continue to grow, and their faith would be refined. Part 2 of this video series documents how Jehovah's Witnesses have led his people from 1922 to the present, or 1922 to 2010. So this is going to chronicle the next 90 years after Russell and after Rutherford took over. I think last documentary that we watched yesterday, I thought it was very polished. I thought it was really nice, but I don't know. We'll see if this documentary keeps being just as polished. I'm pretty sure it will be, as we've seen these documentaries or the videos that they used to do before JW Broadcasting. They used to be far more polished, in my opinion. They used to be like very, very, very nice. So let's keep watching. Let's just start watching. Hi Andy. Hi Andrea. Hi my little Belgian waffle, simply the word. Batman says, I'm all in UK. Perfect. Please also watch our history about
As we saw in part
to enduring persecution. Yeah, we should watch this. I'm looking for another stuff, new stuff to watch. I've been watching a lot of this stuff on my own personal time because I've been researching a lot about the Jehovah's Witness religion, about how cults work, about it. I don't know. It just about all of this stuff. And I was just telling this to my partner the other day. It is insane to me that apparently I know more about cult indoctrination, how cults work, and how that affects the human psyche than my psychiatrist. Which is not to say that I know a lot. It's to say that people know very little. Like even experts know very little. So I've been researching a lot because I feel like there's a lot of things that are left unsaid. So this to me is very interesting, not only because we get to see how the Jehovah's Witnesses rewrite their own history, but also because we get to see how Jehovah's Witnesses have become the cult that they are today. As we saw in the last documentary, when Russell started, it was just pretty much like a book club, and it wasn't really a religion. But obviously, here is where we'll see the transition from like this kind of book club that where they celebrated birthdays and Christmas, and they weren't that bad necessarily. Just had like some pretty stupid ideas to the cult that we know today, that flourished in the 90s and that is slowly dying right now. So yeah, I think that's enough enough of an intro. Let's see what token governing body member has to say.
As we saw in part 1, it took great faith for the Bible students to
Wait, as we saw we can increase the speed. So obviously, we're going to put it in 1.2x because nobody's going to know the difference. Like it will actually sound better. It will actually sound more normal.
break free from the darkness brought on by centuries of false religious practices. Yet their challenges were far from over. Jesus directed his followers to make disciples of people of all the nations. Thus, a huge work lay ahead of the Bible students, and the time in which to do it would be limited. There would be many opposers. Their understanding of the scriptures would continue to grow, and their faith would be refined. As we will see in part 2, the Bible students were about to experience what it would really mean to let the light shine.
What? Look, they put, oh my God, they put the current governing body at the time. You can see Samuel Hurd over here, and then Guy Pearce and this other guy. I can't remember this guy's names, but yeah, these are the governing body of today. So yeah, it's insane. Like you can see the transition from Nathan Knorr, who was the president, because there was no governing body back then, through the governing body as we see it today. Like right now, there's no president. It is extremely cultivated.
By 1922, the Bible students were making remarkable progress. This small group had voiced their determination to advertise the King and his kingdom to the very ends of the earth. To spread this good news, the Bible students adopted the principal method found in God's Word, from house to house.
I remember my mother and father talking about.
I love it. Oh my God, I've done videos on this, and I've mentioned it every time that they mention it. But they say that they adopted the method that the Bible uses, going from house to house, which is completely unbiblical. I mean, again, I've done videos about it. In the Bible, there's nothing saying that you should go door to door. There's absolutely nothing. It's just they started going door to door because they were colporteurs. They sold books, as we saw yesterday. They sold books, so they went door to door to do that. And since they went door to door, because that's what colporteurs do, they kind of like did this like retroactive thing where they're like, oh, we have to preach because that's how probably the ancient the ancient Christians in the first century preached. And they made like this false equivalence that they can't get rid of now that they don't really do anything door to door. Like as we've seen, like the door to door ministry is pretty much like is as dead as is the most dead it has been in over 100 years.
About how the witness work was so emphasized then, about the need to visit the people at their homes. That was the.
There you go. Johnny Barr. He was the guy who was at the beginning with next to Guy Pearce. Johnny Barr. Come on, what do you have to say, Johnny? Good thing you're dead, Johnny. I remember when he died, seeing his photo in a watchtower, because in the watchtower study during the weekends, it would be very boring. It would be a very boring meeting. So you would, go through the watchtower because, it was the only thing you had, right? So if you were reading the watchtower, who cares if it was like in a different article or whatever, you're technically reading the watchtower, right? So I remember seeing the death of Johnny over here, reported on Watchtower, and it was it's insane because that I didn't even know that who he was until I saw that, and then I immediately, like almost immediately, forgot about it. So that's how forgettable governing body members were back then, and which obviously changed starting with this documentary.
Very best way of contacting people. That was understood by some before, but not by the rank and file of the brothers.
Hello.
House-to-house preaching quickly became their trademark.
Good morning. We have an important message we'd like to share with you.
But the Bible students used a variety of methods to get their.
Look, did you see that dude? How is this dude in everything? This dude, it's not Molinfant. It's just we saw him in the modern day drama. Do you guys remember what's his name? We saw him interviewing the black guy who didn't go into sports, and he was like, "So what happened? How did that How did that increase your faith for Jehovah? And now we see him again. Like, this dude has been in everything, like even more than governing body members. That's insane. Oh, what? What is this? The media playboy was supported to the okay. I'm gonna have to refresh. Sorry. Okay. Is it good now? Okay. Where were we? Fuck, where were we? It just started. There you go.
Bible students.
Lucioni. Yeah, thank you. Robert Lucioni. Thank you. Robert Lucioni has been in pretty much every video that we've seen, like from the past. It's crazy.
Variety of methods to get their message out.
Shall be preached in the whole world for a testimony.
For instance, within 2 years of the start of commercial broadcasting, J.F. Rutherford delivered his first of many radio discourses.
Which says, the love of money is the root of all evil. The evil is not in material wealth itself.
In 1922, the Bible students broke ground on their own radio station, WBBR, New York City's first non-commercial radio station.
It was one excellent way of reaching a lot of people. We have brothers who are in the truth today, some old timers, that their first contact with the kingdom message was on WBBR.
By the 1930s, the Bible students were using over 400 stations to broadcast their message on 6 continents. Another tool for broadcasting was the sound car.
It was a panel truck, and we had in there a transcription machine powered by an extra car battery. And we would usually drive the sound car outside of a village and then play a musical record. And then with the microphone, make an announcement that we were going to play a Bible talk on this or that subject.
This is very deceptive because the point of the talks, and they had always done talks and conventions and all that stuff. But the point of that was to get people in the kingdom halls and all that stuff, so they would buy the books. That was the whole point. There was never any collections or whatever, because what they were betting on is for you to buy the books. If you wanted to follow along, you have to buy the books. That's how it worked. So obviously, that's not how Jehovah's Witnesses are going to present it, because they don't sell books anymore, and they want to pretend, as we saw yesterday, that they never sold books. I don't know why. I have no idea why. We talked yesterday that maybe it was because they're kind of like ashamed of their history, maybe like ashamed of like selling books, and they feel like that maybe that was inherently like shameful or something. I don't know. But Jehovah's Witnesses always refused to admit that they sold books. People were invited to all of these talks and all of that stuff because they wanted to. The Jehovah's Witnesses wanted to sell books. That was the only reason.
Time I ever heard the truth was from a sound car. And one Sunday afternoon after dinner, my father-in-law and I went for a walk up the side of one of the hills, and all at once I heard someone preaching.
Someone in chat is saying, Andy Naylor is saying, real reason for the sound card because they were banned from knocking on doors. Is that true? I don't know that much about Jehovah's Witness religion. This is me researching. So do we have confirmation of that? I've heard about. I think that this isn't the first time that I hear about this, but yeah.
Finally, I located in the opposite side of the town, and I thought to myself, "My, that's clever. They could preach to the whole town."
This led to yet another.
That's the worst. Imagine being in the town, and then someone goes to the fucking hill and then just streams like a Bible talk. So you can't escape. Like, it's not like you can go anywhere else. It's all over the fucking town. This should be criminal.
Another method of advertising: use of the portable phonograph.
You'd open the lid, push the lever, put down the needle, and Brother Rutherford would start to speak.
It is often said that religion is a snare and a racket. And why? Religion had its origin with Satan, who employed religion to reproach Jehovah, the Almighty God.
Well, if they didn't kick you.
It's crazy that what they say, what they have to say from Rutherford is religion is a snare and a racket. Sorry, religion is a snare and a racket. Because back then, they weren't a religion. They said that every religion was terrible, and they were against religion. It's only till they accidentally became a religion that they were like, actually, religion is a snare on a racket except our religion. Like, our religion, only good religion. Every other religion bad. But before, originally, it was every religion bad. Buy your books. This is the only way to be a good Christian, because every religion bad until they became their own religion. It's insane.
You off the porch, they'd get quite a message. 4.5 minutes.
Ma'am, I have something that I would really like for you to hear.
Later years would see the development of still more methods of advertising the kingdom.
Yeah, me too. I feel back then, maybe the cars and the phonographs were kind of like interesting because, I mean, the phonographs were like a new invention. Like it wouldn't matter. Like, imagine if somebody showed you like a fucking hologram right now. Like, you would stop. It wouldn't even matter what the hologram had to say. Like, you would stop and listen because it's a fucking hologram, right? So I feel like that's why people stopped and listen to the phonogram, and that's why people don't stop and listen to the fucking tablets right now, because everyone has better videos on their tablets than any video that the Jehovah's Witnesses can show you door to door.
Placards and information marches.
Of all the different phases of the
See, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you. They're just gonna show you because they know that they can't shy away from that. They're going to show you that back then they taught that every religion was a snare and a racket. Religion was a snare and a racket. Religion, period. Again, then they became a religion. They were like, well, religion except us. Just it's insane.
I think that was a highlight of my life. I loved it. You felt that you were in a big army. Lots behind you and in front of you. It was great. I always enjoy those information marches.
So excited. You know, it's what I've discovered while researching about Jehovah's Witnesses. We're gonna put it a little bit faster because I feel this could be just a little bit faster. Oh, it jumps from 1.2 to 1. Fine. Oh, I didn't put it faster, or when I refreshed it. So this is what I've noticed when as I've been researching Jehovah's Witnesses. Being a Jehovah's Witness, like the more further back you go in time, the cooler it was being a Jehovah's Witness. Like, no Jehovah's Witness is in something as cool as like this, like an organized protest and shit. Like, this is far more like proactive than anything Jehovah's Witnesses do, than writing letters in your home, pretending that you're gonna give it to somebody. Like, no. Like, the further back you go back in time, the cooler Jehovah's Witnesses were. And I feel that's also one of the reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses are losing members, because right now, being a Jehovah's Witness has never been more boring than it is right now. Like, right now is extremely boring.
Regardless of the methods used, these Christians were determined to
Listen, somebody is fact-checking me, saying the phonograms have been around for a while by that point. I like the idea that phonograms are like holograms because they kind of sound the same. So that's just going to be my truth, okay?
declare God's
Thank you for fact-checking.
name and purpose to as many people as possible. For 50 years, this group of evangelizers referred to themselves simply as Bible students. But as their understanding of the scriptures increased, it seemed a different name would be more appropriate.
You fucking asshole. They weren't Bible students because they weren't a religion. That was the whole point. They just studied the Bible. That's what they pretended to be. That was the whole point of it. That's why they were the Bible students. Brother Ford came in and they were like, no, you have to make yourselves a religion now. So he made it into a religion.
We were always just called the Bible students, and Brother Russell kind of encouraged that. He said we didn't want to be known by any distinctive name, but just Bible students. And I appreciated his viewpoint on that. The trouble was...
Can you read between the lines? Can you read between the lines? We didn't want to become like any denomination because we were against denominations. We were against religion. So we didn't want to become a religion. Russell did not want to become a religion. He just wanted to sell books and have like a nice book club where people would think he was the faithful and discreet slave because he was so smart because of his books. That's everything he wanted. Rutherford is the one who transformed it into what Russell hated, a religion.
Is that people began to call us Russellites and Rutherfordites. Not only that, but the term Christian itself became a misnomer. Many
they were started to call themselves, like some started to call themselves Russellites, and some started to call themselves Rutherfordites and all of that stuff, because the Rutherford doctrine was very different. In fact, you can still find Russellites today. That's how different the religions went, like from Russell. Rutherford took over and made an entirely new religion. And a lot of people did not like that, because a lot of people were like, this isn't the religion that I joined. This is a completely different religion. I'm just going to follow what Russell said. That's how different it was. They want to present it like it's just like this homogenous, like just transitionary period, and it's just everything has been pretty much the same all throughout. But it hasn't. And if you read between the lines, even in their own propaganda, you can tell.
people said they were Christians and they didn't have any idea as to what a Christian meant.
Their identity would be considered at a 7-day convention held in Columbus, Ohio in 1931. Attendees received programs with the puzzling letters JW on the cover. Speaking on Isaiah 43:10, J.F. Rutherford presented a resolution.
We have great love for Brother Charles T. Russell, and we gladly acknowledge that the Lord used him.
Again, we just see the jazzified version of Rutherford. Where the fuck is his double chin, my dude? Where's his double chin? That's his most distinctive feature. You're gonna grab a dude that doesn't have a double chin? Like, they probably had a harder time finding a guy who didn't have a double chin in Bethel. Like, this is how propaganda works. This is exactly how propaganda works.
And greatly blessed his work. Yet we cannot consent to be called by the name Russellites. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and the International Bible Students Association are merely names of corporations. We are servants of Jehovah God, commissioned to do a work in his name. Henceforth, may it be known that we are Jehovah's Witnesses.
And that's, as far as I know, how Rutherford transformed a movement into a religion.
Watchtower revealed that the Bible students had already known God's name. But now,
they had already known God's name because they used I'm blanking on the name. The Bible, the Bible that has Jehovah, which is, as I've said before in other videos, a name that didn't exist until the 16th century. Jehovah is not God's name. It is demonstrably not God's name. Because it hadn't existed until the 16th century. No Israelite prayed to Jehovah. No Christian of the first century prayed to Jehovah. Nobody had prayed to Jehovah until the 16th century. And it's only because their favorite Bible translation had the name Jehovah that they adopted the name Jehovah. But it's inherently contradictory to their beliefs, because they say that the most important thing is that you know, like, the actual truths and all of that stuff about the Bible. So why are they calling God a name that is inherently not his name? It goes beyond me.
Their new designation would
King James Bible. Thank you. The King James Bible. Thank you, Sad Monkey. They use the King James Bible, which had Jehovah's name, and then they just kept using it for no reason.
Remind these Christians that knowledge brings responsibility to bear witness.
It just identified us.
Oh my God! Tony Morris is in the building. That is crazy. That's crazy. Tony Morris has been removed from like a lot of like the new propaganda. Like we've saw that we've seen that. I think Self-Aware NPC has a great video about how Anthony Morris is getting removed from stuff. But I guess they can't remove him from everything because he was a governing body member for a long time. That is insane that Uncle Tony is here. What does he have to say?
And it was far more than a label, though. You represent the Most High God, Jehovah. So you have to get out in this preaching work, and you also have to have conduct that supports the fact that you do worship this true God.
So at that particular time,
Crazy.
we went from being a vague group of persons who were joined together by a common interest in studying the scriptures to being a scriptural identity that we could stand up and be proud of.
Most of those associated with Jehovah's Witnesses prior to the 1930s felt yearnings for heavenly life. Yet the photodrama of creation had also drawn attention to Bible teachings of a paradise earth.
Guys, as I said yesterday, we're gonna watch the photodrama of creation. I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna live stream and we're gonna watch the whole photodrama of creation. It's a long thing. It's just so fucking long. But we are gonna watch it because Jehovah's Witnesses love to praise the photodrama of creation, but nobody knows what's in the photodrama of creation. And I bet we are going to find some pretty hidden gems in the photodrama. So subscribe if you don't want to miss that, because I don't know when we're gonna do it, but we're definitely gonna do it.
What was the significance of such teachings? At a landmark convention in 1935, Rutherford would explain that the great multitude of Revelation chapter 7 is an earthly class with earthly hopes. This understanding gave fresh significance to the preaching work.
Let's just rewind and hear that again before I tell you everything that they are not telling you. And again, let me just remind you, I don't really know that much about Jehovah's Witness history. Like, if you find this interesting, please do research on this, because there's a lot of things that I'm not telling you because I don't know that much about Jehovah's Witness history. But even me, an idiot, knows enough about Jehovah's Witness history to know when they lie.
Earthly hopes. This understanding gave fresh
a little bit before
convention in 1935. Rutherford would explain that the great multitude of Revelation chapter 7 is an earthly class with earthly hopes. This understanding gave fresh significance to the preaching work.
This is when the Jehovah's Witnesses stopped believing that they were going to go to heaven. Originally, Russell, I'm pretty sure it was Russell, maybe it was Rutherford. Again, it is a live stream, okay? I'm allowed to get things wrong. But originally, the teaching was that the 144,000, that was the Jehovah's Witness or the Bible students, right? And they were the ones who were going to go to heaven. However, then they became a religion, and then they gain a lot more followers than 144,000. So they were like, what the fuck are we gonna do? How the fuck are we gonna conciliate like this, this doctrine with the fact that we've said that it's only 144,000? And instead of doing the obvious of saying, you know what, we are just going to say that the 144,000 is a symbolic name, and a symbolic number, and everybody who joins us is part of the 144,000. We can have millions of people in the 144,000 because it's just a symbolic name, as everything as everything in the Bible. That would solve all of the problems, but they didn't do that. What they did do is introduce the completely unbiblical doctrine of the earthly paradise. They said, we were part of the 144,000. All of the Christians from the beginning were part of the 144,000, but the people who will join us now, like from starting now, they don't get a ticket for heaven. They don't get a ticket to be in the 144,000. They get a ticket for paradise, for the 144,000 to rule them in paradise. And that's how the paradise doctrine started. It didn't start with Russell. It started with Rutherford, because again, he just created a completely different religion from scratch.
Understanding that there would be a great crowd from all sorts of nations and languages put a tremendous responsibility on the brothers. Instead of focusing just on gathering the remaining ones of the anointed, now all of a sudden there's this massive task of getting the message out to others who would then join us and help us with the preaching work.
Jehovah's Witnesses would continue to find new ways to let their light shine. But one aspect of their message would not always be well received.
Oh, and this is when they became a cult. Like, we saw how they became a religion. Now let's see how they became a
Jehovah's
cult.
Witnesses were proclaiming that the solution to the world's problems rests with God's government. On the other hand, the churches repeatedly voiced support for human governments. Jehovah's Witnesses felt a responsibility to make people aware of the position being taken by their religious leaders.
Wait,
In
did you see that?
1938,
Face the facts. Face the facts. Who knows what face the facts meant? Face the facts. You will not grow old in the system of things. That was the whole point. Face the facts. That was the. Let's just face the facts, Rutherford. Fuck! I can't learn the. We're not gonna watch the thing, but yeah, that was what Rutherford said. It's insane that they can't help but show you all of the false promises that this religion has made, because it's unavoidable. When you show photos, it's just unavoidable to show the false promises that they had. And again, what we're seeing in this religion is that this religion, the religion right now, where we're at right now with Rutherford, was not the same religion that the religion that it was with Russell, because with Russell it wasn't even a fucking religion, right? So it was completely different, had become a religion. But the Jehovah's Witness religion today is also completely different from the Jehovah's Witnesses from back then. The Jehovah's Witnesses have changed their theology so much that their religion is inherently different depending on which decade you join, which is just, I think it just goes on to show how human it is that they can't even, like, the Catholic Church has changed less in that time than Jehovah's Witnesses. If Jehovah's Witnesses had the truth, then the truth wouldn't change that much. The truth doesn't change that much. Truth is very unchangeable.
More than 10,000 people jammed into London's Royal Albert Hall to hear a pointed lecture by Joseph Rutherford, while millions more heard this stinging message by radio. Always outspoken, Rutherford invited his listeners to face the facts.
The dictator of the totalitarian rule of Germany has entered into an alliance with the Pope. The indisputable facts are that the Roman Catholic hierarchy has stooped wholly to political methods to gain control of the world.
Rutherford pointed to the church's role in the rise of Adolf Hitler, its alliances with fascist regimes, and its push in many nations to make Catholicism the state religion. When World War II erupted in 1939, nearly every organized religion sent its members into the battle. French and American Catholics killed German and Italian Catholics. British and American Protestants killed German Protestants.
They're not going to tell you this, but this is kind of like this led to Jehovah's Witnesses becoming the cult that it is today, because this is what led to Jehovah's Witnesses in 1935 not saluting the flag. In 1936, he declared that Baptist Jehovah's Witnesses who did salute the flag were breaking their covenant with God and were thus guilty of death, which has been one of the main reasons why the Jehovah's Witnesses religion has been so criticized around the world, because they remove the national pride from people, which I don't know if of how good it is. But obviously, every government cares about their people having national pride, because that's how they get obedience, right? So governments would obviously feel threatened if a cult came in and they were like, no, 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 the only people you are allowed to obey is us. You can't even salute the flag. So this is what led to that, and what has led to a lot of imprisonment since. It was just Rutherford being a fucking asshole, wanting to be an asshole to Catholic religion and being like, we are so different, we are so special. Yeah, they won't even mention the Rutherford Declaration of Facts, which let's just look it up. When let me see a declaration. Facts, because this is important. I mean, if we are learning about the 1930s, we have to learn about this. We can you can research this on your own time. But let's just go through it very quickly, just so we know why Rutherford was in such hot water with the government and all of that stuff. Letter 2, I can't pronounce this because it will get demonetized. And the Declaration of Facts. Let's just read his letter, the letter to Hitler. I hope that doesn't get caught in the algorithm. Where is it? There you go. This is an English translation of the letter to that person that I shouldn't have said. Damn it! I hope I don't get demonetized, because you do get demonetized. Last a couple of live streams ago, I was joking with my partner about that for like 30 seconds. It got demonetized. Like so yeah, I'm afraid of it. The Brooklyn headquarters of the Watchtower Society is when was this made? Let's just, was it 19? I don't know. It was in the 1930s. The Brooklyn headquarters of the Watchtower Society is pro-German in an exemplary way and has been for many years. For that reason, in 1918, the president of the society and 7 members of the board of directors were sentenced to 80 years in prison because the president refused to use 2 of the magazines published in America under his direction, blah, blah, blah. After that. The conference of 5,000 delegates are also noted and is expressed in the declaration that the Bible researchers of Germany are fighting for the very same high ethical goals and ideals, which also the national government of the German Reich proclaim, respecting the relation to humans to God, namely honesty of the created being towards its creator. They tried to position themselves with, Mr. Adolfo over here. I'm hoping that's good, and it didn't work. It didn't work. That's why Rutherford ended up becoming completely against Adolfo. That was the point. That's what happened, and that's why they got persecuted after, because he tried to get with the Adolfo and his fans, and it didn't work. And then he's like, "Oh, fuck you! Then you're terrible." So it's just, again, I'm just going through the surface. I'm just scratching the surface. I want, this is a lot of history that we would have to go through, but this is just so the magnitude of the things that they're skipping in this documentary, because I don't want to go through a huge tangent, but this is just to show you this is how much they are hiding.
Jehovah's Witnesses wanted to make it clear that they were no part of this controversy.
Yeah, once it didn't work.
Of November 1st, 1939 reasoned, how could a person who is devoted to God's kingdom favor one side or the other in a conflict between factions of the world?
It defined what neutrality meant. We're not pacifists. Jehovah is not a pacifist, neither is his son Jesus Christ. And when it comes to being in support of some cause, we were 100% in support of the kingdom. And so we could not engage in any of the world's controversies or share in their war efforts.
This stand would lead to their persecution by dictatorships and democracies around the world.
This is something that is so fundamental to Jehovah's people. They are absolutely no part of the world. They must be strictly neutral when it comes to any conflict between the nations. There's no other people that are entirely neutral with regard to the world, but Jehovah's people are.
Professed Christians who were not neutral, some who even gave voice to the teachings of Adolf Hitler, were exposed by Jehovah's Witnesses. Their magazine, Consolation, drew attention to side-by-side comparisons of speeches aired in the United
They
States.
keep saying the H word. I'm afraid that we'll get demonetized, guys.
And those written by Hitler's chief propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. The wording was practically identical. Coughlin's Nazi loyalties were repeatedly uncovered in the pages of Consolation. But Coughlin didn't appreciate that sort of publicity. His supporters stormed New York's Madison Square Garden and ranted during a speech delivered by Rutherford entitled Government and Peace.
The Puritans fled from religious persecution in Europe and settled in New England with the hope that they might worship God free from religious and political interference.
Rutherford is speaking, and the Coughlionites start saying, Heil Hitler, Viva Franco. Kill that damn Rutherford. And they started throwing things down on stage. Well, Brother Rutherford realized what was happening, and he said,
Lord, today the Nazis and Catholics would like to break up this meeting, but by God's grace cannot do it.
Okay, so this is how persecution works, apparently, to Jehovah's Witnesses. They got some hecklers who were pro Adolfo, and then he's like, oh, this is how the I did not see, get it? This is how they want to fight us by sending these hecklers. And then since they can't stop this, then we win against them.
If Coughlin's goal was to discourage Jehovah's Witnesses, then he failed utterly. The witnesses continued to denounce religious meddling in political affairs, and they took no sides in World War II. And soon, they would boldly proclaim a Bible prophecy that pointed to the outcome of that war. The year was 1941. Having taken the lead for 25 momentous years, J.F. Rutherford had become seriously ill and was about to make his final public appearance. On January 8, 1942, Joseph Rutherford died.
I guess they're not going to talk about Bet Sarum, how Rutherford got a mention when he got sick. He's like, you know what? I want to get a mention in San Diego because it's warmer. So it's going to be because the like Abraham and all of those people of old, they're going to resurrect. And I mean, where are they going to live if it's not a mansion? So that's where he died. But I guess they're not going to say it.
At that time, 51 nations had restricted Jehovah's Witnesses. The Second World War was raging. Some felt that these events could lead directly into Armageddon.
Yes. You fucking what? Some felt it's what? They predicted the end again in 1925, as far as I know. I think I'm researching it. But they predicted the end again. They were like, these are the signs of the end. The world has never been as bad as it is. And they technically were right. That's when they started preaching that the world had never been as bad as it is right now, which is what they've kept preaching even after 100 years of like mostly peace. It's very disingenuous to say, oh, some felt like that's when the end was going to come. Yes, because who was telling them that shit? The Jehovah's Witness religion was telling them that shit. That's insane.
In 1942,
exactly.
Nathan H. Knorr, the one next appointed to take the lead among Jehovah's Witnesses, spoke at a convention about a Bible prophecy that indicated that significant events had to occur first.
This international war is not the battle of the great day of God Almighty. Before Armageddon comes, The scriptures show
Come
a
on.
peace must come.
They yassified fucking Rutherford, but they did this bad to fucking Nathan Knorr. Like Nathan Knorr at least had like a better chin line. Like what's going on here? Like look what they did to my boy.
There was no peace on the horizon, and yet we said, peace can it last?
Knorr centered attention on Revelation 17:8, which indicates that a figurative wild beast would come into existence.
What are these graphics?
Knorr then drew his listeners' attention.
Did I skip it? Oh my God, these graphics are terrible.
Which indicates that a
These
figurative
graphics are like
wild
from
beast would
the
come into
80s.
existence. Would cease to exist, but then would come back to life.
That's terrible.
Knorr then drew his listeners' attention to the defunct League of Nations.
The League is in effect in a state of suspended animation and needs to be revived if it is ever to live again. It has gone into the abyss of inaction and ineffectiveness. It is not. Will the League remain in the pit? Again, the Word of God gives answer. The Association of Worldly Nations will rise again.
That
How's the
association
ministry school says, bro, I remember when this came out and we were all talking about how cool the beast looked. You were indoctrinated. You were indoctrinated. That is the only explanation.
did rise again 3 years later as the United Nations.
They didn't know it was going to be called the United Nations, and we don't make that claim, but they knew it was coming out.
So that would indicate that there would be a time of peace after World War II.
When we went back as pioneers after that convention, we saw that we need to get down and study with the people, educate them in the scriptures, and introduce them to the organization.
Yeah, when they got proved
And
wrong,
based largely
they
upon
revised their theology to say, oh, no. The Bible always says that there was going to be like a time that looked like the world was going to end, but then there was going to be a time of peace. So that means that I know that we preached that the world was going to end because it looked like it was going to end, and now that it doesn't look like it's going to end, we change our minds. The Bible actually says that it will look like it's going to end, but then it won't end, and then there will be a period of peace, which is what we're experiencing right now. We're always right, by the way.
understanding of that Bible prophecy, in that very year, 1942, Jehovah's Witnesses made plans to expand their preaching work.
Rather than thinking of, well, we're going to stop this work, no, there was a field opening up, and there was a window of opportunity for us to give a tremendous witness. How long it would last, none of us knew.
1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15.
To prepare Jehovah's Witnesses for this new field of activity, Knorr and his staff designed the Watchtower Bible College of Gilead, which would train full-time ministers for missionary service.
That is in you, yet with meekness and fear.
They also conceived the course in theocratic ministry, which would equip individual ministers to share their beliefs.
That was an excellent example.
They could speak from the heart. They could go to their Bibles, share these scriptures. So they.
Another appearance by this is the second and last, I believe, rare appearance of normal Stephen Lett. Stephen Lett before he became a Muppet. Pre-Muppet Stephen Lett. It is crazy to see him like speaking like normal in front of the camera. It's crazy.
They would have that kind of training now to represent Jehovah in a much more powerful way.
This education did more than help witnesses to overcome fear of public speaking. It strengthened their congregations, and it prepared them to give.
Man, were they segregated or what? Like, look.
This education did more than help witnesses.
I mean,
to
they were
overcome fear of
segregated
public
at one point. Jehovah's Witnesses like to believe that they have always been like for human rights and whatever, but they were segregated well after they removed segregation in the United States. And I don't know if this is why you only see a whole bunch of white people here, but I mean, it sounds like it could be the reason why you see just white people. I mean, there's some black people, I think. But yeah, over here you see
It strengthened their
black
congregation
congregation as well. Here, just again, mostly black people, if not, I mean, their heads are turned, but it's mostly black people, if not all black people. Wonder why?
and it prepared them to give a bold witness in an even greater setting.
This is my favorite blunt paper. It's
Jehovah's
perfect, it's
Witnesses
cheap,
try
with
to obey
bite.
the government and the laws of the land in
And it's like super slow burning as well. Like and it tastes actually like it says on the package.
every aspect of life. But the one aspect of life that they realize that the governments cannot control is our worship of God. If the government says you cannot preach the message, it doesn't take much research in the Bible to see that the apostles had the same command given to them. And they gave very clear answers when they say we obey God as ruler rather than man.
Jesus had forewarned his disciples, "Men will deliver you up to local courts."
I love that they say, "Oh, we obey God rather than men," and that's why we obey this men, the governing body, rather than our own interpretation of the Bible. Like even if we believe that God wants something else, we follow these men because we're supposed to follow God, not men. That's why we follow these men.
While preaching from house to house, Newton Cantwell and his sons were arrested for conducting their ministry without the approval of the state. The witnesses challenged the conviction.
Not defiant, but simply peacefully saying, no, Jehovah has commanded us to do this, and we're not going to ask a human for permission to do that which Jehovah has commanded us to do.
After a 2-year battle, the court decided in favor of Jehovah's Witnesses. But just 2 weeks after the Cantwell decision, the United States Supreme Court would decide another case involving Jehovah's Witnesses and the national flag.
Although we respect totally the nation and what the flag represents, to make an act of devotion or worship to a flag is in the same category to us as worshiping an idol.
Thousands of witness school children were expelled because they would not salute. Among them, William and Lillian Gobaitis. The witnesses challenged the expulsion in court.
Then when the time came for the trial,
Oh my God, they're gonna focus on their persecution because Rutherford decided that saluting the flag was bad instead of focusing on like Beth Surim and that shit. Jesus, this is what you get when you try to learn history from propaganda.
that was very frightening.
Raise your right hand, put your left hand on the Bible. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yeah, me neither. Like I kind of wish Jake was here.
Bill was the first one to go on stand. They asked him, why don't you salute the flag? And he brought out Exodus 20.
Thou shalt not
Then when
make
it was my turn, they asked the same, and I said,
The Bible is clear at 1 John 5:21, where it says, "Little children, keep yourselves from idols."
Although the lower courts decided in favor of Jehovah's Witnesses,
Court's adjourned.
the school board fought back and appealed to the Supreme Court. On June 3, 1940, the Supreme Court ruled 8-1 against Jehovah's Witnesses, a ruling that would rock the country.
What?
Within days of the Gobaitis decision, the Kingdom Hall in Kennebunk, Maine was torched. In Illinois, a mob attacked witnesses as they were preaching, turning over their cars and destroying their literature. In Winsboro, Texas, witness Oscar Pillars was attacked by a mob that was determined to make him salute the flag.
They brought me to.
You know, it's kind of crazy that this is what they're focusing on. Like it's just, if you think about it, it's kind of nuts. This guy went through and all of these people went through all of this suffering because some dude that had already died had decided that saluting the flag was somehow akin to idolatry. And they established that false equivalence, and they were like, yeah, this is idolatry, we decided, so we can't do it. And the dude that decided that was dead now. If he was already dead, and he was still victimizing these people, because if he hadn't come up with that, nobody would have come up with that. Nobody. Like how would anybody have come up with that? It's a stupid false equivalence. It's kind of crazy to think that this cult was against the government like so clearly, and then when the government was like, you can't shun people who wanna salute the flag. They were like, oh, we're being persecuted.
By now, they had the flag there, and they wanted me to salute that. They would hold up my hand in this fashion, and I'd let my hand drop. And of course, that made them very angry.
The mob threw the rope over a pipe and then pulled pillars up.
Jehovah! That was Jehovah.
He woke up in jail and near death.
That was Jehovah.
The next thing I knew was a doctor was bringing me to. The marshal said, and this put great courage back into me. The marshal said, he is the most stubborn devil I've ever seen in my life. So I knew then that I had not compromised.
Some were tarred and feathered, others were run out of town, several were castrated. And this was not just from one or two communities, but literally from Maine to California, from Washington to Georgia.
In Opelika, Alabama, witness Thelma Jones and later her husband Roscoe were arrested and unjustly convicted of selling books without a license.
The only time I believe the Jehovah's Witnesses will ever admit that they used to sell books is when they have to say it because, you know, that's why she got convicted. And they're recounting this story of persecution.
The U.S. Supreme Court upheld their conviction 5-4.
The Supreme Court ruled that the state, in this case the city of Opelika, had the right to impose a fee and a permit for the so-called privilege of talking to one's neighbor.
Yet in the defeat, there lay a glimmer of hope. Dissenting Justices Douglas, Murphy, and Black.
Yeah, this is what I've been working on as well. This is how indoctrination can affect you. These people got like victimized by mobs, and they were unwilling to change, not because they believe that they had the truth, but because they believed somebody else had the truth, Rutherford, and they were just following orders. That's what you get when you get indoctrinated. You get zombies that just follow orders, even when it is against their own self-preservation. I'm not saying, you know, it's their own fault. Obviously, a mob is not going to be kind to you, even if you change your mind or whatever. But it just goes on to show you just how deep indoctrination goes. You can go against your own self-preservation for your own indoctrination.
Stated that the Jones case and the earlier Gobitis flag salute case were wrongly decided. Jehovah's Witnesses saw their opportunity. They forged ahead with a new flag salute case.
Well, Brother Covington, it looks like we're ready to go to trial.
West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett. In the Barnett case, the court reversed itself, overturning the decision in Gobitis. The court ruled that the school board has no right to deny education to children of Jehovah's Witnesses who refuse to salute the flag. In that one year, 1943, the United States Supreme Court rendered 21 decisions favorable to Jehovah's Witnesses. Meanwhile, witnesses in the province of Quebec, Canada, were being arrested regularly, sometimes twice a day. Quebec's head of state, Premier Maurice Duplessis, made it his personal ambition to silence Jehovah's Witnesses. But his efforts backfired. After a 12-year battle, the Canadian Supreme Court convicted Duplessis for his harassment of Jehovah's Witnesses. The condemnation of the premier of a province was unprecedented in Canadian history, and it was hailed as a landmark for individual freedom. Legal battles were not limited to North America. In Greece, some 20,000 arrests were carried out against Jehovah's Witnesses. Over a period of 48 years, Minos Kokkinakis was arrested more than 60 times for preaching. He spent years in prison and in exile.
If I was keeping a book, how could I write it? 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. Many times I was in prison and exile. That was a whole life. 50 years. They sentenced us.
he was arrested for selling books for a cult that no longer believes anything that the books that he got arrested for said. Just remember that. Exactly, best life ever.
Deliberately and premeditated.
Finally, in 1993, the European Court of Human Rights upheld the right of a Greek citizen to teach his religious beliefs to others and ruled that Greece had violated the freedom of Minos Kokkinakis. To date, Jehovah's Witnesses have won over 200 favorable decisions in the highest courts on earth.
Burning deep within the hearts of Jehovah's Witnesses is a desire to show Jehovah how much we love him. As secular authorities attempt to impede our effort, then with that same degree of zeal, we work to protect our witnessing activities.
To know that if you put your trust in Jehovah, he will help you through it, no matter what.
The wonderful thing about persecution, if I can call it that, is that it demands decision.
Jehovah is a powerful fighter. Who can fight with him?
No matter how much opposition we may face, or what form or shape it may take, our trust in Jehovah will never let us down.
This is why they're highlighting this persecution this much, because they know that nothing cements your faith like being persecuted, because then you feel validated because your religion will tell you that you're going to be persecuted because you're right, and then when you get persecuted, you're like, oh, I guess I am right, and I am going to defend the people who I love who are also being persecuted. Like, I am going to be against the persecution, obviously. So that's why persecution does not work. That's why anything that victimizes Jehovah's Witnesses does not work. It's, yeah, exactly. It is. That's a good soundbite. The men saying that what's wonderful about persecution. Yes, because Jehovah's Witnesses love the persecution. They know that that's how they get strong Jehovah's Witnesses in the faith whose faith will never quaver. So it's very deceitful, and it's very icky, because that's how they use persecution. And again, that's why persecution does not work. That's why violence does not work. That's why anything victimizing any Jehovah's Witness individually does not work. I made a video about this week about how to destroy the Jehovah's Witness religion, and where I talk about how the best way is to remove their charity status. Because if you just remove the charity status, but you don't interfere with their freedom of worship, and like you don't interfere with anything, you just make them pay taxes, that will be a huge hit that the Jehovah's Witnesses can twist into being like, oh, we're being persecuted, because they can be like, no, it's just you can do whatever, but since you shun kids, then we're not going to give you a charity status because you're not doing charity stuff. It's just them suffering the consequences of their own actions, unlike them being persecuted. So again, this is why persecution does not work. This is why I don't support anything that victimizes any Jehovah's Witness. I don't support aggressive activism, like going into kingdom halls and like screaming and that kind of stuff, because it does not work. Because only Jehovah's Witnesses love persecution, because they will use that story to cement other people's faiths. That it will not work.
He's backing us up.
Throughout the legal battles and persecution, Jehovah's Witnesses were experiencing amazing growth.
Can't say that anymore.
The School of Gilead was making an impact. In the first 10 years of its operation, over 2,000 missionaries had been trained and dispatched. And the number of Jehovah's Witnesses quadrupled. In Africa, in just 11 years after the start of the Gilead School, the number of Jehovah's Witnesses increased by 800%. The message took hold in the Orient as well. When Gilead missionaries arrived in Japan in 1949, there were fewer than 10 native witnesses. But in less than 50 years, that number would multiply to over 200,000.
Most definitely, it's not the result of human efforts, but it's the result of Jehovah's Spirit. It's true, he uses humans. He blesses their efforts.
but it's God who makes it grow.
It is kind of crazy to see normal Stephen Lett. Not gonna lie. I don't feel like, oddly enough, I don't feel like I'll get used to it. I am far more used to crazy Stephen Lett. But yeah, this triumphant music, Jesus fucking Christ, come on. But hey, this music was bespoke for this documentary, which we don't really get in Jehovah's Witness propaganda anymore. Proving my point that Jehovah's Witness propaganda used to be better. It used to be far more polished.
Worldwide, Jehovah's Witnesses were preaching in 143 countries. The work was expanding on every continent. The witnesses were growing, not just in number, but in understanding. Since the days of C.T. Russell, Jehovah's Witnesses had been using Bible translations accepted in the various lands in which they preached.
The kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of
But there were a number of problems. Antiquated language, the presence of spurious texts, and the fact that most translators had replaced the name of God, Jehovah, with
I love it.
Titles.
I love it. I love it. They're saying how they were having trouble using the Bible, their Bible translation that they were using, because it didn't support their doctrine. Let's listen to this again.
Problems. Antiquated language.
Antiquated language, which, sure, not every Bible has antiquated language, by the way. There's a lot of Bibles with like modern language, not thou or all of that stuff. So this isn't a good reason to translate your Bible.
The presence of spurious texts.
The presence of spurious texts, like these, and the Holy Ghost, and these three are one. A text that kind of seems to support Trinity, right? And Jehovah's Witnesses are like, let's just look this up, actually. First of John 5:7. Wait, can we use yeah, let's, no, I don't want to support you. There you go. This is what the King James Version says. For there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost. These three are one. Now let's see what it says in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, how they fix it. 5:7. For there are three witness bearers, and the Spirit, and the water, and the blood, and the three are in agreement. What the fuck even is this? They really changed it, right? From and the Holy Ghost and this three are one to for there are three bearers, Spirit, the water, and the blood. Where's the Holy Ghost? And the three are in agreement. That is crazy. Yeah, they are recognizing that they had to change the Bible so it supported their own beliefs and not the Trinity.
And the fact that most translators had replaced the name of God, Jehovah, with titles such as Lord or God.
Why? Why is that? Maybe it's because the name of God, Jehovah, or the Tetragrammaton, is not ever in the New Testament. It just does not show up. It doesn't show up. So Jehovah's Witnesses, since they were Jehovah's Witnesses, and since their whole thing was Jehovah, they were like, we kind of wish it showed up in the New Testament though. And they only lose Lord and God because that's how the Bible was written. But it sure would be better if it said Jehovah in a few because then, I mean, we are Jehovah's Witnesses. That would kind of validate our own existence. And so yeah, thank you so much for admitting it. Like they're literally admitting why they had to come up with their own Bible translation, because the Bible did not agree with their beliefs at this point.
It's just as if you're reading a letter about a personal friend, someone you love, and their name's not in there. It just talks about the man or the person.
And so the need was seen to have
that's how the Bible is, though. Like that's how the New Testament is. Like it's not anyone's fault. It's like it's the New Testament. It's the Bible. You have an issue with the Bible at that point.
translation where the name Jehovah is mentioned everywhere where it used to be in the original writing.
In 1946, Jehovah's Witnesses.
But they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They didn't do it just in the original writing. Garrett Lush, looking just as old as always, by the way, even though this is like 15 years old. Jesus Christ.
Began work on a new translation of the Bible. The Egyptian papyri, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and other recent archaeological findings helped make possible the full restoration of God's name. The results of years of painstaking labor began to be revealed in 1950.
By Jehovah's undeserved kindness, I have the extreme pleasure of releasing to the International Theocracy's Increase Assembly of Jehovah's Witnesses the New World Translation of the Christian Greek Scriptures.
Finally, a Bible that agrees with our theology.
The New World Translation is the first to render the divine name consistently from Matthew to Revelation 237 times.
Our Bible is the first one and only one to artificially insert the name Jehovah, which is a name that has only been around since the 16th century, into the whole Old Testament, where it had never belonged. Oh my God.
Restoring God's name to places where it had been removed didn't always set well with the critics.
But you can't do that, said one of the critics. The committee, in its foreword of 29 pages, shows how it can be done on valley grounds, and it does it.
Didn't they pay for all of this? Like this was like a book release, right? They were still selling books. Right? Right?
This was a group of spirit-begotten men under the influence and not inspired, but
Wait, that's the Bible that admits God's name isn't Jehovah at the front? I need to see that. You have a link? I need to see that.
The influence of Holy Spirit, love, respect, and reverence for the author. And they gave us this translation. So when you study this, you feed on the mind of God.
Now, let's just quickly recap how Jehovah's Witnesses translate the Bible. We don't know who translated it, so we can't check their credentials. That's like a huge red flag. Like immediately is invalid because of it. Obviously, if you want to look into a translation, you have to figure out like who translated that to figure out whether or not they are capable of translating anything in the first place, right? So since we can't do it, then obviously this isn't it's not a valid translation. But it's not a valid translation for many reasons, because the people that they chose to translate the Bible weren't the people who had the most amount of knowledge on the Bible. They were just the people who had the most amount of knowledge on Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's when they translated anything, and they had to like choose a wording. They could be like, okay, let's just choose a wording that kind of complements Jehovah's Witness theology, that kind of says that Noah preached when he never did, like all of that kind of stuff. That's how the Jehovah's Witness Bible was translated. It pretty much takes a Jehovah's Witness view to the Bible, and it's not in every single text, but it's in sufficient text enough where it makes a difference, or when you can interpret whatever you want out of a text, out of a verse that says that, again, like the verse of Noah that says that Noah that the people around Noah did not know about the flood until the flood started, right? Which means that Noah did not preach to the people around him. But in the Jehovah's Witnesses, translated to say, oh, no, people did not take notice until the first drop fell. So you can be like, oh, they did not take notice even though Noah was preaching. That's how Jehovah's Witnesses lie with the Bible. That's why this Bible was needed. And that's why Jehovah's Witnesses need their own Bible translation. Because if you even use like a normal Bible translation, the Jehovah's Witness doctrine kind of just falls apart.
After World War II, nations were beginning to recover economically, but not spiritually or morally. Jehovah's Witnesses took steps to make sure their conduct was in harmony with the standards set forth in the Bible. Since 1945, Jehovah's Witnesses have upheld the Bible's command to abstain from blood.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the 1950s, though many...
Nathan Knorr was the guy who decided that blood was like cannibalism. And you know what else was like cannibalism? Organ transfusions. For a decade, organ transfusions and blood transfusions were all banned for Jehovah's Witnesses. And then, I think it was the 60s, and then they revised their thing for organ donations, but they didn't revise their thing for blood all the way until the 2000s, when they revised their thing for fractions of blood. So, yeah, Nathan Knorr is the guy responsible for thousands of deaths. What I believe is it's very hard to find the numbers, because it's not like the Jehovah's Witnesses will ever release them. But as far as I know, and as far as I can estimate, there were at least thousands up till the pandemic, when before the Jehovah's Witness religion collapsed.
They were adopting a more tolerant view of sex outside of marriage. Jehovah's Witnesses held that such conduct should be shunned.
And it was pointed out about that time that one could not be qualified to have a responsibility in the congregation if they hadn't a clean.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like, I really, really appreciate it, because I am doing a lot of research, and it's taking a lot of time. Like, this is, I would have watched this in my own time. So yeah, that takes a lot of time. But I feel like I'm researching things that very few people research, but that affects like millions of people, which is cult indoctrination. So I feel like it's important. It's the most important thing that I can do. Like, me, an idiot, can do. Like, just make a video about a thing that people don't really know about. So yeah, all of your support is very much appreciated, because I wish I could be like a psychologist and then just get a grant from somebody to just research this stuff. Like, I wish I could. I was that smart and like had that level of support. But I'm still interested in researching this stuff. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone for the support. I'm hoping that I can come up with valuable content, not just commentary, which it can be entertaining and that's valuable in its own way. But I want to make a bit more of a difference. So thank you all for your support.
Standing before God. Well, I remember some brothers were saying, "Oh, that'll never work, and we'll never have enough congregation overseers to do the job." But the Brother Knorr and the other responsible brothers determined that we were going to maintain Bible standards regardless of the consequences.
Since 1952, Jehovah's Witnesses...
I'll need to figure out how to do it. But yeah, maybe. If you guys will want it, yeah, of course.
Have adhered to the Bible teaching that those who practice conduct condemned by God...
I love it. Conduct condemned by God. Like drug abuse. Show me one verse of the Bible where the Bible condemns drug abuse. Again, it's just Jehovah's Witnesses' whole theology is based on bad Bible math and false equivalences. That's, once you take a look at their theology, you realize that that's pretty much where their theology is all about. Bad Bible math and false equivalences.
Jehovah's Witnesses have adhered to the Bible teaching that those who practice conduct condemned by God should be disfellowshipped. Then in 1973, although many...
Oh, believe me, it's just like reading and researching a lot and then be like, oh, I don't know what half of these words mean, and then just look them up and then just end up watching a course on psychology so you can understand like a couple of words. And it's very slow, because again, I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am just an idiot who's trying to understand how he was indoctrinated in the first place and how his life got mostly ruined, like for the most part, by a cult. And there's no information out there other than Stephen Hassan's books and like a couple of other books, and that's it. So yeah, it's not it's not that like it makes me feel extremely stupid. Is what I'm trying to say. It makes me feel extremely stupid because there's just so little information, and then the little information that I can find, I have to like research to make sure that I understand it.
Considered the use of tobacco to be a personal choice, Jehovah's Witnesses rejected it outright as a form of drug abuse. They were willing to...
No, what? Okay, first of all, I was going to point out how you know, that's when they were like, oh, we Jehovah's Witnesses are against smoking, but are for alcoholism, which, you know, I don't know. I was going to point that out, but then I saw this dude. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if you guys saw Jake's live stream from last week. He was watching the Wife of Lot drama, and this is the guy that the husband of the wife of Lot preaches to, like the worldly guy. Let me just show you. That's insane. That means that the wife of JW, of course. Remember the wife of Lot. Where is it? Here. Look, let me just let's just find him, because I can't, like, it's this dude. It's this dude. The dude that's the worldly dude. That's always angry. This dude.
It's okay. It's Joe.
Joe.
Thanks for coming over.
Look, it's this dude. This dude is in this drama. I mean, in this mockumentary. That's crazy. That means that this dude has probably been in Bethel for like longer than I've been alive or something. That is exactly. It's Angry Joe. Muchas gracias. So yeah, that's Angry Joe. It's insane. I wouldn't have recognized that if I wasn't watching Jake's live stream last week. Like, that's crazy.
Drug abuse. They were willing to uphold these scriptural standards, even if it didn't win them any popularity.
Hey, that's it. That's Angry Joe.
You could relax the standard, and you could perhaps.
That's insane. That's crazy that Angry Joe has portrayed a constructor twice. How crazy is that? Is it because he just looks a little bit Mexican? Is it because he's Mexican? That's it, right? It's because he looks a little bit Latino. So they're like, oh, he has to be a construction worker because we're pretty racist. Oh my God. Let's hear what normal Stephen Lynn has to say.
A lot more people. But Jehovah's never been primarily interested in numbers, but he's interested in quality of his worshipers. Only 8 survived the flood. Shows you Jehovah's thinking on numbers.
We will stick with the scriptures. We'll never water it down. A little leaven ferments the whole lump. This is clean. And when people come to the Kingdom Hall, we want them to feel confident that this is clean. Not just physically, but most importantly, spiritually clean.
Sure, Tony. Jesus. That's crazy. Normal Stephen Lynn and Tony Moore is back to back.
For years, organizational matters were largely in the hands of the president of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania.
Look at that glorious double chin. Look at that. Look at that. Are you kidding me? You couldn't have found like a guy with this double chin? I'm telling you. Yesterday we theorized that he was against beards because he couldn't grow a beard. Like, he was like me and he couldn't grow a beard. So he was jealous that other people could hide their double chin. He's like, if I have to show my double chin, everyone has to. But why couldn't they find an actor that had this double chin? It's his most distinguishable feature.
But in the 1970s, a concerted effort was made to align the organization more closely with the pattern in the Bible.
And so if there was no number 1 in the first century among the apostles, why should there be a number 1 today? But the pattern of the first century is a collective direction of the organization.
This collective direction is given by a group of men who serve as the governing body.
Is that it? With just one sentence, they're like, yeah, so we figure out that it should be a collective, so then we became the governing body. If you want to know how the governing body came to be, just read Crisis of Conscience by Raymond France, because it is far more than this. But this immediately dismantles what Tony Morris has always said, that there has always been a governing body. No, there wasn't. Bitch, there wasn't even a governing body for the most part of the Jehovah's Witness religion.
Of Jehovah's Witnesses.
There's a wisdom in a multitude of counselors. When we all see it in agreement, we're very...
Saludos desde Czechoslovakia. Look, Speak Czech, man. Like, what the hell? Why are you speaking Spanish? Saludos.
Very convinced this is the direction Jehovah wants us to go. You can't do that if you're alone.
This adjustment has enabled Jehovah's Witnesses
That's true. We went straight from the 50s to the 90s. Like they were like, okay, so Nathan Noor was a thing. Anyway, modern governing body members, what happened throughout? You're not going to discuss like the Malawi scandal. You're not going to discuss the struggle of power. You're not going to discuss how the governing body came to be. Or you're not going to discuss 1975. No, there was no 1975. Nothing happened from the 50s to the 90s. Nothing relevant happened. The only relevant thing that happened is that before it was Nathan Noor, then it was governing body, and those are the people who you're supposed to obey. That's the only thing relevant.
Do their work more effectively. They are building houses of worship faster than ever before.
Proof of God's word. Building.
They are publishing Bible literature in more than 500 languages. In either printed or electronic form.
Look! AncientJW.org! This is when JW.org started. And it was ancient. It was the worst. Look at this shit. Before it was Watchtower.org. Look at this shit. This is horrible.
Jehovah's Witnesses are convinced that this system of things is deep into its last days. And the governing body is intent on reaching as many people as possible with the knowledge of God.
The governing body is intent. This, I would love to research this because I'm pretty sure this is like one of the very first times that they said the governing body wants to do something, and they kind of like gave credit to the governing body like directly. I'd love to research this, but this kind of language would pop out if I hadn't been like when I was a Jehovah's Witness in the early 2000s. That kind of language would have popped out, but this kind of language is extremely normal now in this version of the Jehovah's Witness religion.
We want to continue to oversee and give impetus to the preaching work, because this has to be done before the end comes. Mark 13:10. In all the nations, the good news has to be preached first.
We just need all the help that you can possibly muster up to get out there and preach and teach the good news of the kingdom, and have that urgency about it because it is so urgent.
Jesus said that we can have more confidence in the fulfillment of the Bible than the sun coming up. And so with that kind of faith, we can do the work that's involved. We just pour ourselves into that.
It would be impossible for humans to do what Jehovah accomplished. We have to give him full credit for the things that have transpired. And we also realize that we've got a work to complete.
So keeping our brothers and sisters focused on what Jehovah wants us to do at this particular time, seeing how close the end is, that is our main focus, and giving full support to the Brotherhood as they continue to show their love for Jehovah, to preach that good news in all the inhabited earth.
What I see in the modern history of Jehovah's Witnesses, here is a people who were hungry for the truth, who were humble and who wanted to do Jehovah's will. They have deep love for God and a desire to see Jehovah's name sanctified to the ends of the earth.
Guys, are you noticing what I'm noticing? They just show you like pretty much the entire government, not all of them, but almost all of the governing body members at that time. This was probably the first time that they did this, that they shown governing body members, and they were like, no, you're going to learn directly from them. This is really the beginning of JW broadcasting, if you think about it. Because before, governing body members were just like the people in the back, just not in the light, they just kind of wrote the books and they directed the thing, but it wasn't about them. It was about the organization. Now it's really about them and about doing anything that they say and following them as people. So I feel this mockumentary that they have is kind of like proto JW Broadcasting. I don't think we would have had JW Broadcasting without this documentary first, because this is how I don't know. This feels like it's what got governing body members comfortable in camera.
What started as a small group of sincere Bible students has grown into millions of preachers throughout the earth.
The Bible foretell the future.
What began with little international or ethnic diversity has grown into a worldwide brotherhood. United in the worship of the one true God, Jehovah. Bible education is still the means by which they receive the light. They understand that what they learn from the Bible today will strengthen their faith for the days ahead. Those who accept the light become disciples. As true disciples, Jehovah's Witnesses have had to accept hardship.
See, again, milking persecution for as much as persecution is worth, just milking it, because that is how you get people to follow you. You compare yourself to these people, and you're like, wow, these people are allowed to like die for their beliefs, and I should have this. I should be grateful that I don't have to die for my beliefs yet.
But no hardship can diminish their joy. Their perseverance through all manner of tribulations is evidence that their faith is not misplaced and that the God they worship is real. Thus, with living faith and joyful hearts, Jehovah's Witnesses will continue to let the light shine.
Oh, wait. Which one should we watch next? Faithful on the Trials. Oh, Jehovah's Witnesses in the Soviet Union. Ooh, I'm becoming a tanky, so maybe this would be good. This Faithful on the Trials, Jehovah's Witnesses in the Soviet Union. I'd have to learn a little bit more about the Soviet Union. Yeah, but we should watch one of these as well. Just a whole bunch of worldly organizations. Oh, jeez. No! Oh, sorry. Sorry. Sorry, my dog. So yeah, this was Jehovah's Witnesses Faith in Action part 2. Let me know what you guys think. This was pretty enlightening. They kind of, as somebody said in the comments, they kind of just go all the way to the 50s and then they skip to the 90s and they pretend that nothing happened. They don't talk about 1975 or anything. They're just like, we have always been the same. We've always preached the same. They don't talk about how they used to sell books except when they absolutely have to. So yeah, let's hope you guys liked it. And you know, we're still a little bit I'd like to go for like 2 hours. So I think we can just close by watching these two, because that I haven't watched, at double the speed. Let's just watch this, because I want to know what Jeffrey Winter has to say.
Well, the quality we're talking about.
I like to keep up with
the
Jehovah's Witness theology, and sometimes they say something. What type of dog do you have? I have a Pee-wee. Ben, come here. Oh, it's like a terrier. We kind of rescued her from the street. She only has like a brown ear. Look, she's so fucking cute. But she's very disobedient, and sometimes she gets excited and she barks in the house, and she's not supposed to. She's not supposed to. I love you. Love you. Go don't bark.
Most powerful reasons
Just
for
watch this real
displaying
quick.
modesty is that it benefits others. Why can we say that? That one of the most powerful reasons for displaying modesty is that it benefits others. It's because of Jesus' words here in the book of Matthew, chapter 22. And let's read together verse 39. Matthew 22. Of course, in verse 37, Jesus helps us to see that the greatest commandment of the law is to love Jehovah. And without a doubt, a modest course pleases Jehovah. But in verse 39, the second greatest commandment is this: you must love your neighbor as yourself. Well, this too becomes a very powerful reason to cultivate and display this quality of modesty. And interestingly, we see this aspect, that is modesty's effect on others, in the original language of the text. And the Watchtower said this. First of all, it defined modesty. It said, in the Bible, modesty refers to having a proper estimate of ourselves and an awareness of our limitations. But then it went on to say, in the original language of the text, the emphasis seems to be on how that awareness should affect our behavior toward others. So then, with that in mind, let's look at 3 examples that highlight how modesty benefits others. And all 3 of our examples focus on giving advice to others, which is what our text comments also.
It's crazy how they talk so slowly that listening to them at twice the speed is completely like. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I have absolutely no trouble following what he's saying, even at twice the speed.
So talk about. For each example, we'll examine the situation. We'll decide what the modest course is in that situation, but then how does that modest course benefit others? So the first situation, very simply, a friend comes to us for advice. They're facing some challenge, some trial, or they're facing a complicated decision that they have to make, and they just want some input, some advice, and so they come to us. Well, what is the modest course in this situation? Well, it's our text for today, isn't it? 1 Corinthians 4:6. Do not go beyond the things that are written. The study note on that scripture says this. This rule implies that God's servants are not to teach anything that goes beyond the laws and principles expressed in God's inspired word. End quote.
Like prohibition on birthdays, prohibition on Christmas celebrations and beards and all of that stuff. Like that shit that's unwritten. Like like having to tell you all of your sins to a group of elders, a group of 4 elders in confidence, where nobody is allowed to listen. Like that kind of thing that is not in the Bible.
So then the modest course is to give our friend advice that is based on Bible principles. Or in other words, we defer to Jehovah in matters of counsel and guidance.
That's anything I can think of anytime I see Jeffrey Winder. There's no need to an apology when we got things wrong. There's no need to apologize because we got shit wrong and then we lied to you.
Well, how does that modest course benefit our friend? Well, first of all, it benefits them because, honestly, our opinion could be wrong. Isn't that true? Whereas God's word is perfect and Jehovah's counsel is always beneficial. But modesty also helps them because it helps us to be a good listener. We will modestly recognize that we need to know the facts. We need to understand the situation in its entirety as much as possible before we can identify which Bible principles our friend may wish to consider before they make their decision. So then, in the end, modesty helps us because our counsel will be Bible-based and it will more closely hit the target of what they need. Situation number 2. How do things change depending on the subject matter of the advice being sought? So in this scenario, our friend is confiding in us a health problem that they're facing. And it's maybe a medical treatment that they're trying to decide on, and they're looking for some input. What's the modest course in this situation? Well, we genuinely feel for our friend, and we want to help them in any way that we.
Since there's nothing in the Bible that tells them about what kind of medical attention they should get, then you can tell them that they can do whatever the fuck they want because the Bible doesn't say anything about it.
Can. But here too, the underlying principle of 1 Corinthians 4:6 applies. That is, not going beyond the limits of our authority. Well, what is our authority in this kind of a situation regarding health matters? The Watchtower said, when faced with a health problem, each adult Christian must carry his own load of responsibility in choosing treatment. End quote. Well then, keeping that in mind, modesty will help us to think carefully before we offer our own medical advice or before we discourage them from taking a prescribed treatment. But what can we do to help them? Well, certainly we can listen empathetically. We can offer them our sincere, heartfelt sympathy and comfort. We can think about what practical help we can give them, and we can reassure them of our support for whatever decision they should choose to make. And how does that modest course benefit them? Well, it dignifies them in that it allows them the right to make the decision for themselves. It also protects them from any undesirable consequences in the event that our medical advice might not be the right one in their case. But it also provides them the love and the reassurance and the support that they need at that challenging time. Situation number 3. How do things change depending on who needs the assistance? So in this scenario, an elder, maybe a work overseer, becomes aware that a married sister on his crew or in his department is facing some challenge and maybe is in need of assistance. Well, what is the modest course in this situation? Well, as we mentioned earlier, modesty includes being aware of our limitations, including being aware of the limitations of our authority. So what is our authority here? It's interesting that recently the Watchtower has helped us to see that there's a difference between the authority Jehovah gives elders and that which he gives husbands. Compare with me, please, these 2 scriptures. The first one is in 1 Peter chapter 5, in verse 2. So speaking about the authority that Jehovah gives to shepherds, to elders, 1 Peter 5:2 says, shepherd the flock of God.
What was that? Like, Why did he look behind him? Like,
Speaking about the authority that Jehovah gives to shepherds, to elders, 1 Peter 5:2 says, shepherd the flock of God under your care, serving as overseers. Keep that in mind as we turn to Ephesians chapter 5. And let's see what authority Jehovah gives to husbands in verse 23. Ephesians 5:23 says, because a husband is head of his wife, just as the Christ is head of the congregation, he being a savior of this body. So comparing these two, we can see Jehovah, for elders, they are shepherds, whereas the husband is the head of his wife. Well, how does this apply then? How does this help our elder in our scenario? Well, his knowing the difference between the authority given here helps him to not overstep his authority as an overseer and as an elder. Of course, each situation is different, but depending on the situation, if this truly is a personal matter, he may very well modestly refrain from giving advice at all. He may not get involved at all. He may recognize this feels like husband territory, and I'm going to allow her to work with her husband in this matter. And how does that benefit the couple? Well, it preserves her husband's authority, doesn't it? It also deepens her respect for her husband, as he is the one that can help to care for and help her in this situation. It keeps the strength of their marriage intact and their view of the sanctity of marriage. And it also avoids even an inkling of an emotional attachment forming between two people who are not married.
this is insane because this is only needed because Jehovah's Witnesses are so judgmental and they're over everybody's business because they have to be. That's part of their religious indoctrination. They have to be ready to report to the elders anyone who's not conforming. So he's basically saying, hey, don't overstep that when it's a marriage that is not yours. Like, let people solve their own marriage issues, maybe. If you don't have any evidence of them doing anything that directly contradicts what we tell you that they should do.
Well, these are just a few examples that highlight how our displaying modesty benefits others. And that is one of the most powerful motivations and reasons for displaying modesty. And sometimes considering how modesty benefits others gives us clarity of mind on what the modest course is and gives us the motivation to take that course. And as we consider, this is not just an alternate way of looking at it. This is not just a novel approach to showing modesty, but rather it is based on the second greatest commandment of the law. That is to love our neighbor as ourselves. Well, dear friends, we thank you for your sincere efforts to show modesty and the good example that you set in this regard. May Jehovah continue to bless your efforts to cultivate this important quality and thereby help you to be a true gift to your brothers and sisters.
It's kind of mid. Let's watch Malin fan. Because let's close by with this. We're gonna close by with this, and I want to tell you a few things. If you want to stick around for like the announcements of the channel or whatever, you can. But it's fine. Let's just close with this because Malin fan.
Let's turn to James chapter.
Wow, it stays in twice the speed. I'm gonna use UW.org much more now. That's crazy. Melifan's perfect. Like I feel like he's been Jehovah's Witness. He's been a Jehovah's Witness for longer than we've been alive, most of us. So he's such an interesting person to observe. Like I like to observe people and to like try to understand them. And Melifan is just, I don't know. Like I'd love to just talk to him, or just observe him while he gets some coffee or something. It's just he's so odd. Like it's a person that is indoctrinated for that long is just it's insane.
Patience. Let's turn to James chapter 1 verse 19. Here the scripture reads, know this, my beloved brothers, everyone must be quick to listen. That requires patience. Slow to speak. Patience. Slow to anger. So even though the word patience isn't used in this text, we do have to exert patience, and it is speaking about patience. Patience is not only about waiting, it's also about how you wait, what your attitude about waiting is, and the spirit you show while you're waiting. For example, you're in traffic, stuck. You're in a long line at a store waiting to pay for the merchandise you'd like to purchase. You're getting very slow service at a restaurant. Or you're waiting for someone who is slow for an appointment or to complete an assignment. How do you wait? We want to wait with patience. We have a wonderful example in the scriptures. Elihu is the man in Job. We'll turn there, Job chapter 32. We can learn some lessons about patience from Elihu. He had genuine love for Jehovah God and very deep respect for truth. And when he heard some of the foolish, untrue things that Job's three companions were saying, and also from Job himself, it irritated him. And we can read about his irritation, really righteous indignation, we call it, at Job 32, verses 1 through 3. It says, so these three men stopped trying to answer Job because he was convinced of his own righteousness. But Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite of the family of Ram, had become very angry. His anger blazed against Job for trying to prove himself right rather than God. He was also very angry with Job's three companions because they could not find an answer, but had declared God wicked. Isn't that interesting? Elihu, he waited with great patience. He didn't interrupt Job or his three companions, those false comforters, even though he could see clearly they were terribly mistaken in what they were saying. In fact, they lied about Jehovah God, and they made false accusations against Job. So he did indeed have righteous indignation. But there's one thing we notice. He gave an example that we can imitate. He waited to speak. He had patience before he revealed his feelings. Let's read verses 4 through 6. Job 32, 4 through 6. Elihu had been waiting to respond to Job because they were older than he was. When Elihu saw that the three men had nothing to say in answer.
This is true. About the husband thing. Jehovah's Witnesses have a very hierarchical, patriarchal way of looking at marriage. So what Rosita Bel Castro is saying is true. If you talk to an elders in confidence, like as a wife, I would assume, they will tell your husband everything you said to embarrass you because you're his possession or territory. It's that. That's correct. Like as they did said husband territory. So yeah, if a woman, like if a wife talks to an elder, she can talk to an elder and just be honest about shit. Like like my husband beats me and I need help or whatever, because at the end of the day, the wife is treated as the husband's possession, so she has no right of privacy, whereas the husband does have a right of privacy. We can I could probably do a video about it, but yeah, it's pretty interesting, because if a husband does say that, then it's sometimes, not every time, but there are times where it's up to the husband to disclose whether or not like he did a sin, where it's never up to the wife to disclose to her husband whether or not she has sinned. That will always happen.
Sir, his anger flared up. So Elihu, the son of Barakel, the Buzite, began to speak, saying, I am young, and you men are aged. So I respectfully held back, and I dared not tell you what I know. What lesson can we learn here about patience? Don't interrupt other people when they're having a conversation. Haven't you seen people do that? You may be conversing with somebody, and someone will just walk up and interrupt immediately and inject himself in your conversation. Really, that's rude. It's not the right thing to do.
This is something that Jehovah's Witnesses love to do. They love to grab something about patience and be like, oh, let's link that to like courtesy and like common courtesy and like being polite and not being rude. That probably has something to do, like that. You show patience ish, and that's what the Bible tells you, to not be rude. Jesus, it's not only a false equivalence, but it's a false equivalence for like nothing, for just don't be rude. Like, come on.
I remember one time when I was at the Stanley Theater, there was a brother there that I wanted to greet, that he was having a conversation with a sister. This was a very prominent brother. And so in my enthusiasm, I walked up to him and I interrupted the conversation to greet him. Well, what happened to me on that occasion, he looked at me with a withering look of reproach for my bad manners. What a good lesson. He was right. I was wrong to interrupt a conversation that it was obvious that he was having with another person. So we need to learn, because it's our inclination sometimes. We want to be heard. We think we've got something to say that's important, but is it really more important than what the people are talking about, those that we interrupt? And some just seem to have the habit of interrupting. So the lesson is don't be rude and interrupt.
Is this just don't be rude? Is this just a lesson in like common courtesy? Like to pretend while pretending it's in the Bible?
Conversations.
Like next thing he's gonna be like, oh, this thing in the Bible says don't commit violence, and it's pretty violent to like chew with your mouth open, because people don't like that, and when people don't like that, it's like when you're beating them, like people don't like that either. So the Bible says close your mouth when you're chewing.
That others are engaged in, even if you feel that what you have to say is more important. Don't interrupt unless the building is burning down. So what you have to say also might not be as important as you think it is. There's another lesson we can learn here from Elihu in Job 32 verses 11 and 12. Notice what it says. Look, I have waited for your words. I kept listening to your reasoning as you searched for things to say. I paid close attention to you, but none of you could prove Job wrong or answer his arguments. He listened closely to what was being said by the three false comforters and also by Job. He got all the facts before he spoke. Isn't that a good lesson? Sometimes we may jump to a conclusion about somebody, his motive for doing something or saying something, and we only have partial information, and then we find out, I should have been quiet. I should not have said anything. I'm embarrassed about my own foolishness.
Yes, because Jehovah's Witnesses love to judge things. It's part of the doctrine. You have to judge them. You have to judge them to figure out whether or not you're still allowed to hang out with them. You have to judge them to figure out whether or not you're supposed to report them to the elders. You're always supposed to judge people when you're in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So Malenfant is basically admitting that Jehovah's Witnesses can be overly judgmental and can even judge without all of the facts, can even rush to judge. They can do it too fast. So Malenfant is saying, hey, judging is fine. Just make sure you have all the facts. It's crazy.
Because I jumped to a conclusion about this person. So like Elihu, we should avoid jumping to conclusions about a person's motive for saying or doing something. We may be mistaken, especially if we react before hearing the reasons why a person said or did what he did. Being patient can save us from unnecessary embarrassment. So it's a good idea to show patience. Elihu's patience was truly remarkable also because he was a man of passion. You can tell that he had very strong feelings about the truth and speaking the truth, the way he was agitated over what Job's three false comforters were saying. He wanted to correct matters. He knew that Job's three friends didn't speak the truth. About Jehovah, they lied. About Job, they were lying. But he contained himself until they were finished speaking. What an interesting account. Actually, let's turn to Job 32, 17 to 20. This is how he felt. And sometimes you may feel this way, highly agitated. You feel you just have to say something, but it's important sometimes, especially when you really feel that way, to hold back a bit. Verses 17 through 20. So I too will give an answer. I too will tell what I know, for I am full of words. The spirit within me compels me. My insides are like wine that has no vent, like new wineskins ready to burst. Let me speak so that I can find relief. I will open my lips and give an answer. But isn't it interesting? This is how the man felt. But he exercised control over his own person. He exercised restraint in coming forth, speaking what he felt over perhaps quite a long period of time while the three so-called friends of Job were criticizing Job. And then Job's reply, he stood there or sat there and listened, paid attention, controlled himself, and at the right time, he spoke. And we do know that his anger did indeed blaze against Job and against his three companions. We can detect his anger in the first verses of chapter 32. But what's fascinating about the way Elihu handled matters when you go to chapter 33, when it came time to give counsel, he set a good example for all of us in the family.
I love it. It's just everything Elihu do has to be twisted with a Jehovah's Witness narrative. Even when he comforted Job, he didn't comfort Job. He gave counsel, because that's a Jehovah's Witness thing for when you have to reprimand somebody or like tell somebody that they're not following up to like the standards of the cult.
When it comes time to give a person counsel, even if we're highly irritated over something he or she did or said. Let's read verses 1 through 7. Elihu says, "But now, Job, please hear my words. Listen to everything I say. Look, please, I must open my mouth. My tongue must speak. My words declare the uprightness of my heart, and my lips sincerely tell what I know. God's own spirit made me, and the Almighty's own breath brought me to life. Reply to me, if you are able. Present your arguments before me. Take your position." And notice this wonderful expression of fellow feeling. "Look, I am just like you before the true God. From the clay, I too was shaped. So no fear of me should terrify you, and no pressure from me should overwhelm you." What a wonderful example. We might get highly irritated at somebody and feel he really needs to be talked to. Perhaps we feel that he needs a severe reprimand, but we need to do it with love. Actually, Elihu was a friend. And you can tell when a person gives you counsel, if he's giving you counsel just because he's angry at you, or if he's counseling you because he loves you. You're his friend and he wants to be of help. That's the example that Elihu set for us.
Yeah, when you're correcting people, make sure that it's out of love. Make sure that you're correcting people in further indoctrinating them into the cult out of love.
So what good lessons for all of us from Elihu about patience and good manners.
Anyway, this was, I always love to like keep up with all of the videos that Jehovah's Witnesses put out, because it's just sometimes there's a gold nugget. I feel these two are just kind of middling. You can see there's some things to talk about the indoctrination, but it's just there's not a lot of things there. But yeah, so thank you so much to everybody who joined me in the channel. I'm trying to spend as much time as possible making videos right now. I don't know if if you've followed me for a while, you may have noticed that throughout this year I've tried to like post as much as possible, because I am trying to learn as much as possible, and I'm trying to I don't want this channel to just become like a commentary channel, even though I like doing commentary. I don't think there's anything wrong with commentary. But doing commentary is kind of like easy, and it's fun, and I get to debunk a lot of things and give my perspective on things. But I don't want this channel to just become a commentary channel, because I feel commentary channels, like there's a lot of commentary channels, and I want to do something like a little bit more edited and a little bit more polished, like the Jehovah's Witnesses used to do. So I'm focusing a lot right now in learning about cults and how the cult indoctrination works. I've already read like Stephen Hassan's books. Jake from the All Worldly channel gave me like a book recommendation to learn about cults. So the cult thing, and this is kind of what the basis of my video is. I believe cult indoctrination is abuse, and is abuse that is not only like supported by people. It's abuse that's not only like completely legal. It's abuse that is supported by governments, because if you do it properly, you don't even have to pay taxes for it. I'm working on that, because it is a very hard thing. I've been working on this for months now, and this is like I kind of like had an idea to kind of talk about this. So I've been working on my thesis on how cult indoctrination equals abuse, which again it's kind of weird, because I think I have all of the evidence to say that cult indoctrination is abusive. It's inherently abusive. But then again, cult indoctrination has been around for a long time, And it feels like I am the very first person putting that together, which feels wrong because, again, I'm an idiot. I don't have any studies. I'm just an idiot who was indoctrinated before. Like, it feels like I can't be the only person who's making the connection that cult indoctrination is abuse, but I can't find the evidence to prove that. I can't find evidence to prove that I'm not the first one, because being the first one kind of, I don't know, if I'm the first one, it just makes me feel like I'm wrong because I know nothing, So I've been trying. That's what I've been trying to, like, read everything that I can on cult indoctrination, watch every documentary on cult indoctrination. So if you have any reading material that you can suggest me, please let me know in the comments. I'm trying to get as informed as possible in cult indoctrination, in Jehovah's Witness own history, but mostly like on cult indoctrination, how it works and how it abuses people. So yeah, some people are already giving me a few ideas. Check this dissertation abstracts. Check Dr. Janja as a research. Yeah, so I will be looking into that. I'm working on this video because I feel like this video that I'm working on is probably the most important video that I can put out. Not that it's going to be. Thank you so much for the full name. Not that it's going to be important. I don't mean that. What I mean is that it's the most important thing I can make. I, an idiot, can make. So I'm really trying to do a lot of, like, research and editing. And so if you can support me in any way, like, not just in Patreon, obviously Patreon and in money and all of that stuff, that obviously is good, but if you can give me any ideas on what to read, or even like who to interview on this, I would be very, very interested, because I feel like if I'm right and cult indoctrination is abuse, then is the only kind of abuse that is not only legal but protected by by most governments around the world. And I could be like one of the first people to make this connection, and I would love to just put that out there, because you never know which actual smart people may actually see this and think of things that I will never be able to think of, because I don't have the studies or whatever. So yeah, it is like a passion project. I've been working on it for a long time, just like doing a lot of research and like trying to figure out how to express it. And it's probably not even going to be that long of a video, but I want it to be a very succinct and engaging video that just explains my thesis, like the basis of my thesis, how cult indoctrination is abuse. So yeah, let me know if you guys know about anything. I just wanted to put that out there, because you guys obviously consume a lot of cult indoctrination content. If you like to watch these live streams, you guys obviously are into cults. So if you know about anything, please let me know. I will absolutely love to read up on that, because there's just so little information out there that it's just crazy to me. It's insane. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for supporting me and for giving me an excuse to have 2 beers at noon. It's just I don't even know